Are you paying attention to the danger you can't see? Have you ever felt like someone's eyes follow you too long? Ever wondered why a message from someone suddenly feels off? Or why a once caring friend now makes you feel isolated or uneasy? Often ignore the subtle shifts until it's too late. But today we're going to talk about something serious. How hate can quietly, dangerously evolve into deadly intentions. This is not about fear. This is about awareness. This is about equipping you with Stoic clarity so you're prepared, not paranoid. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button. If you're committed to growing stronger, wiser, and safer, you're in the right place. 1. Obsession in disguise. The danger of fixation. It starts innocently enough, or so it seems. A person glances your way a little too often, lingers when they should have moved on, or appears in places that you frequent just a bit too coincidentally. At first you might shrug it off. Maybe they're just friendly, or maybe you're being paranoid. But with time, their presence becomes more than just a background note. It becomes a pattern. You begin to realize that they aren't simply observing, they're fixating. Fixation isn't admiration, it's obsession in disguise. When someone repeatedly inserts themselves into your space, your routines, and even your personal life without invitation, they're not complimenting you with attention, they're surveilling you. Their interest isn't passive, it's active, persistent, and calculated. They ask too many questions about your schedule, your friends, your habits, details that are nobody's business unless you choose to share them. Yet somehow, they make it feel like you owe them answers. In Stoic philosophy, we are taught to observe the world with detachment, to respond rather than react. But the Stoic must also be discerning. While we are encouraged to let go of our ego and avoid overestimating our importance, we are not to ignore when someone clings too tightly to us. Stoicism encourages awareness, not just of ourselves, but of our environment and the intentions of others. Fixation is a warning signal, a red flag waving in the wind. Too often people dismiss it, rationalizing the behavior as harmless or flattering. But make no mistake, fixation is rarely benign. It represents a boundary being crossed, an emotional line that the other person feels entitled to step over, often without your consent or awareness. It is the first stage of a deeper pattern of control. Many fixated individuals don't start with overt behavior. They begin by gathering data, small bits of information that seem trivial on their own. What time do you go to the gym? Who do you spend time with? What route do you take to work? They build a profile, not because they admire you, but because they feel they deserve access to you. This type of surveillance masquerades as attention, but is, in reality, an erosion of your autonomy. The Stoic approach is to cultivate inner clarity. That means knowing the difference between kindness and coercion, between genuine interest and disguised control. Fixation rarely stays static. It escalates. If you allow it to take root, you risk becoming entangled in someone else's emotional dependency, or worse, their manipulation. Boundaries are not walls. They are lines of respect. When someone consistently pushes beyond those lines, it is not your job to accommodate them. It is your responsibility to protect your peace. The Stoic does not rage or retaliate. They recognize the danger and quietly remove themselves from it. This is not cowardice, it is wisdom. Learn to listen to your discomfort. It is often the first voice of reason. When something feels off, don't ignore it. Obsession doesn't arrive with a warning label. It disguises itself in small behaviors, easily overlooked until they form a larger picture. And by then, the damage is done. Stay alert. Be aware. Trust your instincts. Fixation is not love. It is not interest. It is control wrapped in the guise of curiosity. And in the world of Stoicism, anything that seeks to control you emotionally, physically or psychologically, must be met not with fear, but with firm boundaries and unshakable resolve. 2. Tracking you in two worlds, digital and physical intrusion. We live in two parallel realms, the physical world and the digital one. Each of these spaces offers us different forms of connection, communication, and self-expression. But when someone with obsessive tendencies decides to infiltrate both, the effect can feel suffocating. Suddenly, you're not just being watched, you're being followed. Not with footsteps alone, but with clicks, likes, and views. You post a photo, and within moments they like it. You share a story, and they're always among the first viewers. These digital breadcrumbs, your online presence, become tools in their surveillance kit. You begin to notice a troubling pattern. They show up at your favorite cafe, join the same fitness class, or start frequenting places you mentioned offhand. The digital becomes physical, and your sense of safety begins to shrink. This isn't support, it's strategy. In Stoic philosophy, we are urged to guard our peace. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But today, outside events increasingly include the digital traces we leave behind. And these traces, when in the wrong hands, can be used to construct a map of our lives, where we go, what we love, who we talk to. It becomes an emotional invasion disguised as attention. Online behavior often feels innocuous. We are conditioned to share, to update, to connect. But in the hands of someone fixated, this openness is misused. Innocent information becomes ammunition. They use it to coincidentally be where you are. They might claim it's all harmless, that they just happen to like the same places. But when someone repeatedly shows up without a clear reason, and especially without your consent, it stops being a coincidence and becomes a tactic. Stoicism doesn't ask us to become paranoid or to wall ourselves off from the world. It asks us to become mindful. Just as we are responsible for our reactions, we are responsible for the energy we allow into our lives. When someone digitally and physically inserts themselves into your routine without permission, that is a disruption to your inner peace, a form of surveillance that wears the mask of interest. This is why protecting your information is a form of protecting your soul. It's not about living in fear, it's about living with intention. Limit what you share. Be conscious of your digital boundaries. Consider whether the details you offer online are worth the intrusion they might invite. When someone begins to occupy both your physical and digital life without invitation, they are overstepping. It is not flattering, it is invasive. Their desire to be close to you overrides your right to distance. And in that imbalance lies the seed of manipulation. The Stoic response is calm, not chaotic. You don't have to confront them with anger. Simply step back, withdraw your access, make your life less transparent. Not as an act of punishment, but as an act of preservation. Peace doesn't require an audience, and those who truly respect you will never force themselves into your space, online or off. 3. The shift in words when language turns dark. Words are powerful. They are the tools we use to connect, comfort, explain, and express. But they can also be sharpened into weapons, used to manipulate, belittle, or control. One of the clearest signs that obsession is turning toxic is the subtle shift in language. What once seemed like light-hearted conversation begins to feel tense, confusing, or even threatening. Perhaps their tone becomes sarcastic when discussing your boundaries. Maybe they start to joke about your habits, but there's a bite beneath, the humor. Or they make comments that sound like compliments but leave you feeling uneasy. "I know you better than anyone else," or "No one else gets you like I do." These phrases may sound affectionate, but they're often laced with possession. Stoicism teaches us to remain emotionally resilient, to respond with reason rather than react in anger. But it also teaches us to read between the lines, to observe the intentions behind the words. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." In other words, stay grounded in your values. When someone's words begin to deviate from kindness to coercion, take note, that's the beginning of emotional manipulation. This stage often follows the earlier patterns of fixation and intrusion. Once someone feels emotionally entitled to your life, they may begin to test how far they can push your limits. This often shows up in language. They may start correcting you publicly, questioning your decisions, or making comments that subtly undermine your confidence, all under the guise of just being honest or just caring. Don't be fooled. Language is how manipulators reshape your reality. They might start reframing your independence as coldness, your boundaries as selfishness, your social life as disloyalty. The goal is to make you question yourself, to make you feel guilty for needing space, to make you feel like you owe them something, your time, your emotions, your presence. As a Stoic, you must resist the temptation to explain yourself endlessly. You must recognize that not everyone who demands your attention deserves it. If someone consistently uses language that makes you feel small, confused, or emotionally exhausted, that is not love. It's control. The shift in words is often the quietest yet most dangerous phase. It slips under the radar, but it's also the most revealing. It tells you exactly how the other person sees you, not as an equal but as a possession. And once you see that, you can no longer unsee it. The Stoic path calls for clarity and courage. Do not allow someone's words to chip away at your self-worth. Protect your mind as fiercely as you would your body. If their tone has darkened, if their words feel heavy, believe that shift, and walk away with peace in your heart and strength in your step. 4. Isolation is a weapon. When they cut you off from others, this one's subtle and dangerous. At first glance, it might seem like genuine concern. They might say things like, "I'm just worried about the way your friends treat you," or "I don't think your family really understands you the way I do." It sounds caring, protective even. But look closer, and you'll notice a troubling pattern. Over time, the people who once formed your support system, your friends, your siblings, your mentors, are slowly discredited, criticized, or outright demonized. This is not protection. This is isolation. Isolation is not just a side effect of toxic relationships. It is often the core strategy. Those who seek to control you will do so by first cutting off the other voices in your life. They don't want you to have options. They don't want you to have counsel. They want to become your sole source of information, affection, and interpretation. They want their reality to become your reality. This tactic is especially insidious because it often begins with seeds of truth. Perhaps your friend once let you down. Maybe your sibling doesn't fully support your goals. The manipulator takes those small truths and distorts them into something toxic. "See," they say, "this proves they don't really care about you." But what they never allow is nuance or reconciliation. They won't encourage you to resolve a misunderstanding or speak with your loved ones directly. Why? Because resolution and truth weaken their power. Isolation makes control easier. When you're alone, you're more vulnerable. You're more likely to doubt yourself. You begin to internalize the manipulator's voice as your own inner dialogue. The person who isolates you positions themselves as the only one who truly understands you. And that's precisely what makes their influence so strong. This tactic can evolve into something more dangerous. When a person feels completely alone, cut off from their safety net, they may tolerate things they never would have before. Emotional manipulation, verbal abuse, even physical violence. The manipulator knows this. They count on it. They manufacture the isolation to ensure there is no escape route, no one to turn to. It's important to understand that this isn't always obvious. This kind of isolation doesn't usually happen overnight. It happens gradually. A sarcastic comment here, a subtle suggestion there. Why do you always listen to them? Don't you think they're just jealous of your success? You know your friend never really supported you, right? The remarks accumulate. Before you know it, you're questioning the intentions of everyone around you, except for the one person who's actually causing the damage. A Stoic remains rooted in truth, not distortion. One of the core teachings of Stoicism is that we must not allow external forces to disturb our judgment. When someone tries to sever your connections under the guise of care, they are not protecting you, they are disempowering you. A Stoic evaluates relationships based on evidence, not manipulation. If someone truly cares for you, they will support your healthy relationships, not undermine them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." That includes refusing to be swayed by their tactics. When someone tries to isolate you, take note. Ask yourself, what do they gain from me being alone? Who benefits if I stop trusting the people who love me? A person who genuinely wants what's best for you will encourage strength, not dependence. They will help you grow your community, not destroy it. Rebuilding a support system that's been dismantled takes effort. You may have to confront the lies you were told. You may have to reach out to those you've been estranged from. But that work is worth doing. Connection is not weakness, it is armor. It's the web of relationships that grounds you in reality, in truth, in compassion. Isolation is not just lonely, it's strategic. It's how controllers win. But awareness is the antidote. You are not alone. And if someone is trying to convince you that you are, it's time to ask yourself why. 5. Body language doesn't lie. Behavior that signals harm. Finally, trust your instincts. We live in a world that often prizes politeness over perception. We're told to give people the benefit of the doubt, to avoid reading too much into things, and to not judge others too quickly. While there's merit in being fair, there's danger in ignoring your gut. Because when it comes to physical behavior, body language, posture, proximity, your instincts often pick up on signals long before your mind does. Stoicism isn't about pretending everything is okay when it's not. It's about seeing the world clearly and responding with wisdom. And sometimes clarity comes not from what someone says, but from what they show. When a person invades your personal space without invitation, it's a red flag. When their gestures are aggressive, their voice just a little too loud, their stare lingering a little too long, it matters. Maybe they clench their fists while talking, maybe their movements are sudden or erratic, or maybe they constantly watch others with suspicion or hostility. These are not just quirks, they are signs. Many people downplay such behaviors. He's just passionate. She's just intense. But that's how danger creeps in, through the rationalizations we make to stay comfortable. Ignoring uncomfortable truths doesn't make them go away. It just makes you easier to manipulate. A person's body often betrays their intentions. While words can be rehearsed and filtered, body language is harder to fake. That's why law enforcement, officers, therapists, and negotiators pay close attention to nonverbal cues. Shifts in eye contact, posture, or even micro-expressions can tell you more than an entire conversation. It's also important to notice how they behave in different environments. Do they act one way in private and another in public? Do they get physically tense when others express opinions? Are they overly possessive about your movements or your time? These behaviors speak volumes, A Stoic watches these signals without panic, but also without denial. Epictetus taught that while we cannot control everything that happens around us, we can always control how we respond. That means we must observe, process, and act, rather than ignore, excuse, and delay. Stoic wisdom is grounded in realism. If someone displays patterns of dominance, standing too close, interrupting you constantly, making subtle physical threats, it is not paranoid to be cautious. It is prudent. Stoicism calls for courage, but not blind trust. A wise person doesn't walk willingly into danger just to prove they're brave. Also, watch how others respond to this person. Do people seem nervous around them? Do others shrink in their presence? The way someone makes others feel is often a mirror of their intent. When someone's body language causes fear or discomfort consistently, that's not coincidence. It's a warning. Protecting yourself is not unstoic. In fact, it's the application of reason. The goal of Stoicism is to live in accordance with nature, and part of that nature includes your instincts, your reactions, your ability to sense danger. These are not weaknesses. They are evolutionary tools meant to keep you alive. Physical behavior speaks when words are hidden. When someone smiles while their hands are clenched, when they joke but their tone is sharp, when their presence makes your shoulders tense, it's your body telling you something. Listen, in the end, body language is a kind of truth. It's the silent language of intention, and those fluent in it are less likely to be fooled. So trust yourself, pay attention, and when you feel something's off, don't talk yourself out of it. A Stoic does not fear what they see, they act on it wisely. Let reality guide you, not fear, not doubt, but clarity. Stay calm, stay ready. The Stoic Way. This isn't about living in fear. It's about living with your eyes open. The Stoics didn't deny the darkness in the world. They trained to meet it with clarity, strength, and calm. Recognize these 5 signs. Trust your observations, set boundaries early, and most importantly, choose awareness over ignorance. If this helped open your eyes, subscribe and share this with someone who needs it. Stay grounded, stay prepared, stay strong.